Thank you very much. Got a serious answer. Tony Amendola warned us that you are capable of those. If we push enough, that you are capable of being serious. There's one last question from the app, and it comes back a bit to your MacGyver character. If you have a Swiss Army knife, and if you do, which tool do you find the most useful?
Well, in the old days, the corkscrew, of course. Those days are gone. Well, I don't know. Wait, let's take a poll. Anybody? You got a favorite? No, I like the big blade. I gotta be honest. Yeah. It does, historically, it does the most good for mankind and for the evolution of the human race.
Like we got rid of the weaker members of the herd, or
well, you're more likely to be able to slice your donut in half. That did not deserve applause. I really thank you for that. You're very generous.
Well, actually, maybe to help you with the Czech donuts, which we call komplety, by the way, we have a little something for you.
Look out!
Oh, okay.
Did that just fall on your butt? Any kids in the room?
Yeah, this reminds me of a part of yesterday's panel. I feel like Jonas Quinn. No, the very last thing that we've got for you here on stage is, I guess you've got a lot of Swiss Army knives as gifts, possibly. Yeah, should I say that?
Gentlemen.
I guess you got a lot of Swiss Army knives in your life. But we wanted to give you something to remember our little country by. So this is like the Czech army knife, I would guess. It's like, yeah, we're a small country. But kind of fishy.
Where'd you get this?
It's actually a Czech factory with a very long time, since 1794. It's almost older than America. In 1794 is when the factory was founded.
Yeah, we were founded in 1776. Ish. Thank you. This is the best. I'm dead serious about this. This is the best gift I've got on stage here today.
You want to keep this?
Yeah.
Does that have to do something with the knife?
No, not at all. I'm so sorry. Speak up. I agree.
the running, the barrels.
Yeah.
The barrels.
How did that work?
Well, the barrels was, he brought us up to set, and we all stood on this promontory looking at it. And he said, I'm going to have a stunt man demonstrate what's going to happen. And so this guy came around the corner in a barrel. He was wearing a crash helmet and a wetsuit. And he was paddling in a barrel. And then he got to this little beach, and then he sort of did a kind of scuba, tip out, into the water, walked onto the beach. And Peter went, yeah, that's it. And we were like, wow, that's so impressive, just waiting for our stunt doubles to arrive to do it. And he went, so should we shoot it? And we went, well, what do you mean? He said, no, but the guys will guide you down to where you get into the barrels, and we'll just start filming. And so we were led down this path, like lambs to the slaughter, into these barrels that were held by a safety rope. And once we were all in, I also remember Stephen Hunter, who played Bond, his costume was so gigantic, they had to ram him in. And then they just released the safety rope, and we just started floating out into the river. And there was a current, it was like sort of a bit of white water and stuff like that. And we basically had to paddle for our lives to get to this beach. And I remember Stephen was coming alongside me at one point, and we had inside the barrels, they had rubber tire inner tubes that were helping with the buoyancy, basically to keep it afloat. And we were in there, and we weighed a ton, and we're paddling along, and Stephen comes up and goes, Greg, can you hear that? What's that? And basically it was his inner tube deflating. I said, oh, I think your tire's going down there. And he's like, what? And it's like, paddling along. And then he couldn't, for some reason, Stephen decided to come out of the barrel face first. Which is just basic common sense. He said, why would you immerse your face in water and not be able to get out of the barrel? So he was effectively drowning himself. And I think you can actually see it in the film. People just trying to desperately pull him out of the barrel, and then nobody could get up because they were waterlogged with all the water. You can see this in the movie. I'm picking up Adam Brown, who played Ori, and I'm lifting him up. And I was pretty strong then, and I was lifting him up, and I couldn't move him. And he wasn't helping. I said, wait, get up. And you see him mouthing to him, get up, get up. And he just started laughing. He went, I'm trying to get up. And that's what, and you see that in the film. So yeah, it was, and we did it 5 times. Two of the boards breached the safety rope that was stopping us going really fast. They ended up heading towards the ocean. They had to chase in a little Zodiac by the stunt guys. But Richard Armitage nearly drowned. He fell into a pool that had an eddy that was spinning around, and the stunt guys had to jump in and rescue him. It was insane. So it's only a film. They're trying to kill us. Great fun.
Yeah, the movie I was a big fan. When the movie came out, I was one of the only 10 people who saw it. Oddly enough, Stargate as a film, it didn't do very big in the United States when it came out as a movie. The movie didn't. And it's strange. I did a film around the same time period that was a really big budget sci-fi movie also called Solar Crisis. With myself, Jack Palance, Tim Matheson, Peter Boyle, Charlton Heston. I mean, a huge cast, great film. But I think maybe at that time in the early 90s or something, that I don't know if sci-fi was, where people were really, into it. There was a lag going on. I don't think there was a Star Trek happening at that time. There was nothing on TV really that was too sci-fi oriented. I think Sliders was on around then, and Quantum Leap or something. But anyway, that movie it flopped when it came out in the movie theaters as well. And I don't know if it was the time period, but I saw Stargate the movie, and I was blown away. I thought it was one of the best, if not still one of the best sci-fi movies ever made because of how grounded it was in its reality, you know, in its believability with the mythology they based it on out of Egypt, which a lot of it isn't even really mythology. It's just a translation. It's you know, they have the hieroglyphic of the Stargate is real, you know, and it does mean gateway to the stars. But what does that mean? You know, so it's very interesting. I loved it. I didn't see the series on HBO, or no, on Showtime. It came out on Showtime in the late 90s. But I was unfamiliar with it except for the advertisements because I didn't have Showtime. So when it ran its 5 seasons on Showtime, Sci-Fi Network purchased it, and so when I got on the show, that's how I ended up on the show. Because when it ran its 5-season course on Showtime, Michael Shanks wanted to move on and do some other things. He had been on the show for 5 years and felt, you know, that there was some other adventures to take. And Sci-Fi, you know, and MGM brought me on, obviously with the agreement of all of the fellows up at the Stargate production office. So it was an extremely exciting moment for me, and I did go back and watch all the previous 5 seasons. Once I got the job, I got VHS tapes of the show. And I watched every single episode. Just mainly, I ended up really falling in love with the series as I watched those 5 seasons. But mainly, I was watching it from a character point of view, so I could understand the world and understand my character's place in the world, you know, that he was living in. So that was the main reason. It was more research oriented, but I am a huge fan of the show as well. I would have watched it whether I was in it or not.
Well, that sounds quite a bit like Jonas Quinn, I have to say.
Batman and John Constantine as well. You know, they both are, you know, normal guys. They don't have superpowers, so to speak. You know, and they both got Batman's vengeance. You know, and with Constantine, it's self-torture. You know, and guilt and shame and all those wonderful things. But so Batman was always a character that I really liked. I think it's because he's human and he has human flaws, and this is something that is really interesting.
We will go to Constantine later, but yesterday we missed Assassin's Creed Black Flag. So how did you enjoy the role?
I love doing it. Yeah, it was. I think it was one of the first video games that started doing motion capture properly, and I remember the helmet. After about 30 minutes of wearing the helmet, just had a terrible migraine because there was this clamp and they were like tighten the helmet. They're like, oh my god, I can't even breathe. But after a while, I get used to it, and I really enjoy this medium because, for me, I grew up in Wales, a small coal mining town, and we always used to run off and play in the forest, you know. And when you're a kid, you use your imagination, you know, you pick up a stick, and the stick is like a gun, you know, and you run around pretending to play acting. And this part of your imagination, I think, when you're doing motion capture, yeah, this really comes into play because, you know, you have a stick, and the stick can be a gun, or the stick can be a sword, like in Assassin's Creed, or so you have to imagine these things and really kind of, you know, invoke that part of your imagination. And it was the first time that I'd done this, and I found it fascinating, and I'd like to do more actually.
It is really different from doing movies.
Yeah, you know. Well, the one thing is you don't wear the costume, which is a shame. You're in a tight lycra suit with dots all over you, you know. And then you look at the character and you're like, whoa, he looks so cool. Yeah, it's a fun medium to play in.
Do you play games?
I do play games, yeah. I play FIFA. I like playing football, so I'm a football fan. I play as Manchester United. I also play Destiny 2, a little bit of Call of Duty, but not very good. And you know, the young kids online, they just whoop my bum. So normally I like to stick to the campaigns and stuff. But yeah, I have played the original Assassin's Creed. And when I got the role, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. My 10-year-old self was like freaking out. Yeah, it was really cool.
Excellent. We have some really good questions in the app about the Assassin's Creed. Are there any character traits you share with John and Gord, and similarities between you and your characters?
I don't know. Maybe. I think that John and Edward have a lot in common in certain ways, you know. What I love about Edward is he's someone who is, you know, trying to find a new life and let go of like the constraints of where he comes from and who people perceive him to be. And he wants to go and make his life for himself. So I suppose, you know, I'm from Wales. I left Wales when I was 19, you know, to try and be an actor. And, you know, I went to London and then later on to America. And I think that maybe we have that in common, that we both kind of come from a small town and wanted to kind of, you know, make something of ourselves and go off. But I think that maybe John, interesting, because John has so many interesting character traits, you know. I think that like there's a little bit of John in all of us in a way. What I love about him is his self-deprecating nature and the fact that no matter what happens, even, you know, sometimes he runs away from a problem, but he'll always come back to it and he'll always try and get the job done. You know, and I think that there was this time over the pandemic when, you know, I think it was difficult for a lot of people. And one of my friends, I was talking to one of my friends and I was locked in my house in Wales and I was getting cabin fever and all of this stuff. And he said, you've got to channel a little bit of your inner John Constantine, you know, which is like, you know, get on and push through. John has this wonderful ability to kind of like, to get things done even though it hurts him and the world and his friends and everything, you know. So yeah.
The sequence, yeah.
We have some question on a microphone, so I want you to stay there.
Hello, sir. I would like to know if there ever will be a new movie from the series. Would you rather that Mel Gibson will direct or someone else?
What's that?
If there is any
We'll be fine, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, really, you know, I'm sure Mel's a wonderful director, and I'm sure Mel would be the one who would throw his hat into the ring to direct that. And the likelihood would be that he would direct it if we've done it. Now, remember, it's been a long time since Lethal Weapon 4 came out. Lethal Weapon 4 came out in 1998. It's a long time. The summer of 1998. That's 25 years. This 4th of July, this summer coming up, 25 years ago. I mean, it plays all the time. Let's see. I mean, I will be, if we don't get it done real quick, I will be too old for this,
You can say it here.
Hi, Mr. Glover. You talked about a lot of roles in your career, but my favorite one was from Bat 21, where you played a pilot helping Gene Hackman, who was shot down. What do you remember, or what are some of the fond memories about making that film?
It's funny because it's at a time when it seems like, you know, Gene Hackman went with one film to another film to another film. It was like making films quite a bit, and I just was approached with it, and by the director, and I had fun doing it, you know. I said we were in Malaysia for a period of time. The first time I've been to Malaysia, and I had a great. It was kind of a cult film. It didn't get wide distribution, but because everything that I think Gene Hackman at the time was having a film come out a month. Every month there was a new Gene Hackman film coming out. And so, but it was a fun piece to do. I actually learned how to fly the plane.
You learned to fly, how to fly the plane?
I piloted, some of that scene, I'm piloting the plane.
Thank you.